Emergent strategies is a term coined by Adrienne Marie Brown with a book of the same title, Emergent Strategies. Adrienne Marie Brown is an author, activist, social justice facilitator, healer, and so much more. She has been a part of many of the most significant social movements in recent years, including Black Lives Matter and Occupy Wall Street. These movements teach us that organizing can be done in different ways than we are used to thinking of leadership. Come with me on a journey today as we explore emergent strategies and how we can look at nature to guide us in our leadership work that we have to do together. Emergence is beyond the sum of its parts. It's beyond what we could even imagine. Brown looks to Margaret Wheatley's leadership studies of leadership in the new science, and that addresses things like quantum physics, biology, and chaos theory. What can we learn from those as we look to relationships in leadership? Wheatley teaches us that everything in leadership, everything we accomplish, comes down to relationships and our quality of those relationships. Critical connections are essential. Chaos is part of the process. We have to have a little chaos, especially in the beginning, as we try to figure out what's going on and what the next direction is. That's a really important part of the leadership. You wouldn't think so, but it's essential. And then sharing information is fundamental to this process. The information shared has to be transparent. What's out there? What's available to make decisions with? Everyone gets the information. That way we can all analyze it, all study it. And that creates a vision. And from that vision, we can work together to be invisible in what we do so that binds us together. We need our vision to be so essential that it's everywhere. Emerging from relationships and chaos and information. If that's something of interest to you, check out Margaret Wheatley's work. But understand that it is from our relationships, our sharing of what we know, our sharing of information. There may be some chaos. It's confusing, and that's okay. It's part of the vision coming together. Brown's work studies Octavia Butler, the famous science fiction writer. Butler teaches that all successful life is fractal, adaptable, and adaptive. All successful life is opportunistic, and the success is not linear, but it is iterative. That means small parts form the larger whole, just like this dandelion. Successful life and leadership is tenacious, resilient, good at change. Think about how transformative justice works. That's an example. Indeed, success comes from being interconnected. Look at our interconnected web that our principles point us to. Indeed, success in leadership and leading organizations, and even all the way down to the fractal place of our homes or our own mind, is both independent and decentralized. And at the same time, when it comes together, it's all these parts together acting in that same vision. Leadership and life is fecund. It creates more possibilities. And we can all understand it, learn it, study it, reflect in our scholarship, and then we can use it. We can use it because we all have access to the information. We practice, we experiment, there are no mistakes. In Octavia Butler's theology, she talks about that God is change. It's not that God is some entity, it's the notion of change that reflects something greater and more divine. So you can shape that kind of God because you can shape change. Dandelions have no idea if they are a weed or a gorgeous flower. They don't know. But each seed can create a field of dandelions because they too are fractal. And we are invited to be that prolific and return the fertility to the soil around us. Be a seed. In Brown's emergent strategies, we look to how we can be fractal in our organizing, fractal in our leadership, because we are all pieces of the larger whole that we dream of. Our churches are fractals, our homes are fractals. And a fractal is an object or quantity that displays itself similarly like these pine needles. It looks roughly the same at any scale. Small-scale solutions impact the whole system. How can we ever dream a world of peace and tranquility if we don't have it on the smallest fractal? We have to start small with ourselves. We are building in scales. Murmuration. Starlings' murmuration consists of a flock moving in sync with one another. They engage in clear, precise movements, never hitting one another, never colliding, but instead they have this deep trust of one another. That trust is profound, and how do they know where they're going? They look to those closest around them. Join with us in a movement of synchronicity. Movements learn to go along at the speed of trust. Brown explains that her dream is a movement where there's such deep trust that we move as a murmuration, the way groups of starlings billow, dive, and spin, the same way that fish move. They are shoaling, bees or other insects move this way, and they are swarming. Can we move at the speed of trust? Water is versatile. Water can be big and powerful. It can quench thirst. It can be healing. It always finds balance. We too are seeking emergent leadership in our Unitarian Universalist movement. In Brown's work, we learn that leadership collaborates. It's fecund. It moves in a juicy way that it starts at these little fractals and it grows up, and there's so much deep coordination. They are like hummingbirds and flowers. They come together because they need each other for survival. And we can be this vibrant and successful if we too move along in such coordinated collaboration. In today's sermon, you will get a taste of emergent strategy, and hopefully this will be a theme in our year as we go through learning together that small is good and small is all. We don't have to be big elephants. We can be tiny starlings. Change is always constant. Be like the water that we've heard about this year. Know that there is always enough time for the right work. And the conversation that's in the room when you meet with people, that's the only one that's possible at that particular moment. Find what is the good of you all working together. Remember, there's never a failure. Life is always a lesson. Brown asks us to remember that we have to trust people, and people we trust become trustworthy. And that's how we move at the speed of trust. We are focusing on critical connections. That's why we have coffee hours. That's why we have teas. That's why we have committees. We are working together to build resilience, to get good at change, to be more active in our doing and less worried about perfection. Remember to pay attention to what you care about. That is what will grow.